It feels like it's been a long time since Microsoft started making all these studio purchases, and we all thought, well, it's going to be a while before we begin to see the fruits of their labor. Well, I think that time is now, because with Pentiment at the end of last year, and now the surprise hit, Hi-Fi Rush, Microsoft is on a roll. Hi-Fi Rush was a surprise announcement this month, and it's by far my favorite game of the year so far. Hi-Fi Rush takes place in the distant future. You play as Chai, a young man in his mid-20s who unfortunately suffers from an injured arm. In hopes of reaching his dream of becoming a rock star, he volunteers for Project Armstrong, a volunteer program that replaces his injured arm with a cybernetic enhanced arm. During your operation, your music player accidentally falls into the operating room, fusing into your body and infusing you with music as well. Even worse is that unbeknownst to Chai, the whole program is actually a front for easy slave labor, and unfortunately puts you in quite a pickle. Now on the run from the electronics company Vandelay, dead set on abusing its power for profit and money, you run into some friends who also have been wronged by the same company. With their help, you'll team up to expose the true intentions of this corporate overlord, and maybe just become a rock star along the way. Writing throughout the 8-hour story is totally self-aware, but to a humorous degree. Chai and his friends feel like Saturday morning cartoons mixed in with a touch of anime for a delightfully charming and fun cast and story. I can see some people thinking that the writing can get cheesy at times, but I honestly thought it was funny and took it in stride, since there are a lot of fourth wall breaking jokes here and there. Chai is goofy, but I couldn't help but like his antics. They always put a smile on my face. That was generally also true for the rest of the game. I constantly thought to myself, I can't believe this was shadow dropped out of nowhere from a studio that's been known for their horror games. Hi-Fi Rush is an action-adventure game with rhythm combat interwoven in the middle. We've seen other games like Crypt of the Necrodancer do this fusion before, but Hi-Fi Rush feels special. Imagine the action combat of something like Devil May Cry, but the music tempo of Crypt of the Necrodancer. At all points of the gameplay, there's a constant beat playing in the background. You can hear it in the music, see it in the level design, and even feel it as you attack in the controller rumble. The rhythm is present at all times, and if you attack or move in beat, you'll be rewarded. In movement, timing your dash to the music will earn you an extra dash. In combat, combos matching the beat will earn you an extra finisher move, thus landing some extra damage. Throughout levels, you'll traverse a mostly linear path toward eventual boss fights. Along the way are plenty of collectibles like gears that can be used to purchase items, unlock new moves, special moves, and add-on chips. These upgrades primarily focus on combat and greatly increase the diversity of attacks and movements you can perform. Regular attacks are combos that you can mix and match to perform different finishers. Special attacks, on the other hand, can only be performed by collecting the batteries around you and charging up your special meter. You can swap between special attacks you've unlocked for different moves on the fly. Items can be used towards increasing your special meter or health, for example, and then the modifier chips can be used to upgrade stats like recharge times for ally moves or the damage you can deal. All of these upgrades help flesh out the combat to feel new and fresh throughout the entirety of the gameplay. That also further incentivized me to explore every single nook and cranny in the level, whether there was some hidden currency in the corner or some boxes I could smash for extra health. No matter where I looked, I usually ended up finding something useful like some sort of collectible or a mural piece that I could then collect towards an achievement. For a game so focused on music combat, I was pleasantly surprised how well it nailed its platforming and exploration. There were even sections of levels that I couldn't reach from the get-go, further incentivizing me to come back and explore them in the post-game, maybe get those few last unlockables too. Outside of platforming, you'll primarily find yourself in combat. Chai has a light and heavy attack that can be used in patterns to perform different combos. A grapple hook is used to lunge yourself at enemies for close combat, while also dodging any oncoming fire. Speaking of which, there is also a dedicated dodge button and counter button for projectiles and melee attacks. With the press of the shoulder button, you can also summon one of your allies to land an additional attack. These ally attacks can break down specific shields on both enemies and terrains. Macron, for example, can break the shields of enemies and knock down doors, while Peppermint can shoot down shields and open up grappling hooks. All these attacks and moves work hand in hand while, once again, all connecting to the beat of the song. That tempo is indicated by just about everything in the level that reacts to the music, even the light on your robotic cat companion. For those less musically gifted, you can make it a bit easier on your reaction times in the game's setting, but even at normal, I found it to be fine. By later levels, I found myself vibing to both music and combat, especially in the boss levels that usually felt like a test run of some sort of new skill or moves I spent the entire level learning. The way Hi-Fi Rush builds up most levels to introduce a new mechanic both in combat and in platforming while seeking up to the music and said boss fight simply was a joy to play. Hi-Fi Rush looks absolutely beautiful. It features a vibrant and colorful art style that mixes 3D gameplay and a cel-shaded presentation that also looks similar to most modern day anime. Think of the 3D action scenes in Attack on Titan or Chainsaw Man. Strong black outlines on character models give the entire gameplay a sharp look despite the more cartoony presentation. The design of levels alone make Hi-Fi Rush such a memorable experience. Different level elements from the paint on walls, rocks, signs, enemies, and even the UI will all sort of move along to the beat of the song. It's all interactive and reactive to what's happening too. It's just so stunning to see in action, and even more when you stop moving and really take in the scene. There's a touch of comic book-like graphics here too, with speaking panels appearing throughout some conversations and automatopoeias coming out of those actions. There's just so much attention to detail here, and it's hard not to love it. That's yet to speak on just the amazing transition work Tango Gameworks has done here. There are some moments that transition between gameplay, the 3D in-engine cutscenes, into fully 2D animated cutscenes that are so flawless in execution. There's a fantastic example of this, I believe, in the third level that just shocked me with how good it was. In terms of performance, I played Hi-Fi Rush on both my PC running an RTX 3060 Ti and an Xbox Series X. On Xbox Series X, you can expect a native 4K locked at 60 frames per second, and on Series S that gets bumped down to 1440p at 60 FPS. Again, the frame rate seems locked on console in general, and with the above 1080p resolution, the bright visuals look quite crisp. I primarily played though on my PC running at 1440p at 165 frames per second. Again, the frame rate seemed locked at this instance, and the fast action combat certainly looks smooth at that extra high frame rate. Unfortunately, there isn't a 120 FPS mode on console at the moment, and I wasn't able to test this out on my Steam Deck since I was playing this on Gamepass. On the brighter side, there are a handful of accessibility options that make the game easier to play for anyone suffering from bad eyesight or color blindness. Hi-Fi Rush features a great mix of both original and licensed music that complements the rockstar theme behind our protagonist. With music being integral to its core gameplay, it's pretty much heard and technically seen at all times. From its licensed music, you'll hear Nine Inch Nails, The Black Keys, and Wolfgang Gardner, just to name a few. They all fit so perfectly into the levels that I'm honestly not sure if they designed the levels around the music or chose the music after designing the levels. All I know is that when I started fighting to Invaders Must Die by The Prodigy, I hit a level of video game euphoria I haven't felt in a long time. The originals are no slouch either. They're primarily rock tracks that either come up for the main combat scenes or focus solely on the platforming sections. Outside of the music, you'll find some pretty good voice acting across the board for both Chai and his friends, and even the villains they all face. Robbie Daymond does a great job as Chai, bringing a lighthearted and goofy persona to the character. Erica Lindbeck brings an occasionally stern yet upbeat persona to Peppermint, who slowly opens up throughout the campaign. Lastly, Gabe Kunda does a stellar job at making Macron be the large and tough lovable softie he was meant to be. Hi-Fi Rush is a marvelous action rhythm game filled with stellar combat, a fun upgrade system, and a stunning presentation. The attention to detail in level design, writing, and visuals left me enamored for its entire 8-hour playthrough. Even more, post-game content incentivized me to retread those 12 levels for more hidden areas and moves. Hi-Fi Rush is by far my favorite game of the year so far, and if that's indicative of what's to come from 2023 and Microsoft as a whole, then I can't wait to play. Hi-Fi Rush is the new gold standard for what a first-party Microsoft game can be. Please do yourself a favor and go check it out.